Hi, this video is entitled What to Expect from Your Past Life Regression Session. My name is Andy Sway. I've been doing past life regression, specifically QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique developed by Dolores Cannon. I've been doing that since the beginning of 2010, so almost 11 years. And in that time, I've seen over 1,500 clients. I was based in New York City until recently, and now I'm in Los Angeles. I generally will come to you for an appointment, and that way we can social distance at your house and or office or whatever. And for those who don't have a good location, we'll work something else out. But generally, that's what I do. Anyway, sessions last 4 to 5 hours. Okay, this is not pop in and have a quick session and go about your day. This is a half a day project. And that's because what I'm aiming for in this session, what I hope you're aiming for in this session, is a quantum leap. And the way it works is, if you imagine that there is one issue, and it might not seem like the biggest issue in your life, but there's one issue holding you back more than all other issues. And generally what happens in a session is that I will tune into that intuitively. The session basically consists of us talking for a couple of hours, getting to know you, getting to know the issues that you're working on, and telling you what to expect from the hypnosis. You will prepare a list of questions in advance. And we will go over those questions. Those questions are for the subconscious or the higher self. Those questions are questions that you actually are posing to another level of you to be answered while you're under hypnosis. And it's one of the most fascinating parts of the session. I do hypnosis sessions differently than anybody else because I apply the tools that I've learned being an energy healer for 23 years. And a lot of it is intuition. A lot of it is really just about dismantling the structure of your issues, your reactive patterning, the things that feel a little bit out of your control. And so when we talk for a couple of hours, we'll really dig into the areas of your life where you're not satisfied. We'll dig into relationships. That's a big one for most people. What are the patterns that run through all or many of your relationships? You know, if there's a pattern in your relationships, friendships, whatever, the only common denominator usually is you. And so somehow you have manifested that pattern. And for a lot of people, they get to the point where they understand they're manifesting a pattern because the pattern just keeps repeating. The people in your life didn't all have a meeting and decide to mess with you in the exact same way, right? You are the only thing that all those people have in common. And so somehow you manifested a pattern, and usually it's because of a false belief or a stuck emotion. Now, emotions get stuck because we think they're too painful to feel. And I will lead you through a process where you will see that that is not the case. That you can actually feel your emotions, heal your emotions, and shift into a higher octave of your own reality. So we talk for a couple of hours. You tell me your story. We go over the most difficult things in your life. And we go through answering all your questions about what to expect from the hypnosis. And then we take a bathroom break, whether you need it or not. And then we do the hypnosis. The hypnosis takes 2 hours also. So when you count the talking for 2 hours, the hypnosis for 2 hours, and then going a little over here or there, sessions usually end up being about 5 hours long. That might sound like a lot. It is a lot. But when you get into it, you might find that it's not enough, right? It's like you're just getting going. Because what I want to do is align you more with your personal truth, with what I call your core frequency. And so what we want to find out is whatever is inauthentic that you're carrying around in your life. You might have an inauthentic relationship pattern. For example, you might think that you need to take care of people. And so you might manifest relationships with people that need taking care of. And then you might start getting resentful and feeling like, well, who's taking care of me? Nobody. And so that can become a pretty big issue for a lot of people. And so what you want to do is really get to the core, to the false belief. For example, nobody will love me unless I take care of them. Or the reason people love me is because I'm nurturing whatever. And so we want to release that. We want to really look at how that pattern is played out through multiple relationships and expose it. Okay, now let's say if that was your main issue. Then magically, usually, not every time, you will go into past life regression, into the hypnosis part of the session. You'll be primed, and your higher self, your subconscious, will be primed to go to past life experiences or even experiences in childhood or earlier in this life that form part of the foundation of that issue for you. And generally what will happen in past life regression is that you will have an intellectual understanding of the issue, and you will have an energetic release of the issue by reliving whatever is at the core of that issue. So it's kind of amazing. I've seen people relive, for example, a rape in a past life. And as they're in hypnosis, they know they're in hypnosis. They're not flailing around like they think they're getting raped at that moment. They're reliving it, but they realize what's going on. And they shed one tear. And they wake up and feel like a completely new person. Because they confronted something that was stuck inside of them. You know, you can go to therapy forever, but if your issue comes from a past life, you're probably not going to get it there. And so what happens is the 2-hour talk that we do before the hypnosis prepares you and prepares your subconscious mind, your higher self, to go right to the core. So my technique, the way I use QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique, is very directed at clearing issues. Now, these issues could be health issues, emotional issues. They could be about unleashing your creative potential. It really depends on you. A lot of times it's career and relationship. A lot of times it really comes down to the feeling of not being good enough, to insecurity. So then we go through the hypnosis, and like I said, you bring in a list of questions for your higher self. So the hypnosis is divided into two parts. One part where we go through past lives. The reason for going through past lives is not to find out that you were the king of Bulgaria in 1502. If you were, congratulations, good for you. But that's secondary. The reason for it is, on the positive side, to reclaim talents, abilities, positive aspects, ways of being that you might have had in past lives that you don't have now and you would like to reclaim. That's the positive aspect. It's the reclaiming of the attributes. So, for example, if you're highly insecure and you go into a past life where you're very confident, you literally feel what it's like to be that confident person, and you kind of get a download of that way of being. And it's an experience that you kind of can't have any other way that I could think of. Now, the negative side, which is not very negative, but in terms of clearing the negative, is that, like I mentioned before, you might have issues that don't come from your childhood. Like, I have clients that come to me and say, I had an amazing childhood. There was no abuse of any kind. My parents loved me. They still do. Everybody had my back. Everything was good, and I'm not in denial, and they're right. But then they have some crippling anxiety issue, depression, insecurity, can't hold a relationship together, whatever it is. And they find out that they're replaying a pattern that goes back to many, many past lives. And just seeing that in that clear way, a lot of times the pattern just can't be there anymore because it disrupts it so much that it kind of can't continue. So then we go through back to the questions again. You've prepared questions for your higher self. When we're done with the past lives, I will ask your higher self if I'm allowed to speak to it. And I will ask these questions of it. And so the things that came out in the past lives, I will dig into more with your higher self, and then I'll ask your higher self to actually help you heal. And it's amazing what happens. It's not always mind-blowing. Sometimes the thing that you most need to heal seems to your logical mind to be small, but it's kind of the capstone that's holding everything else in place. So it's really important to remove it. Anyway, when we're done with the hypnosis, we might chat a couple of minutes, but you're pretty talked out by then. You will be able to drive right afterwards. That's not really a problem. I mean, you might not want to drive 1 minute after you come out of hypnosis or whatever. But for most people, by the time it takes to be done with chatting with me, remember, I'm generally going to come to you, so you probably aren't going to have to drive. But in other situations, or if you have to drive right after the session, I'd say take 5 or 10 minutes. Gauge it yourself. Make sure you're nice and grounded, back to reality. And then generally what you should expect after the session is to feel a lot better. Another thing you should expect after the session, and you should realize is very normal, is for your egoic, conscious mind to doubt what just happened. And that's fine. I'm not trying to convince your mind, and I don't want you to try. I want you to notice the changes that happen kind of effortlessly as a result of the session. Over 90% of the people do feel that. Your conscious mind, on some level, will never believe you had a past life, because your conscious mind is only in charge of this life. Your conscious mind wasn't in those other lives. It doesn't know about them. It's a different aspect of you that is only focused on this life. But the most important thing that happens with these sessions is the connection with the higher self. For many people, when the higher self comes through, and most people are aware throughout the session, they really feel the presence of the higher self. Sometimes they feel like a jolt. They feel like something came into their body and it feels strong, and it's like it's the energy of you in its purest form and its most high frequency form. It's not the you of your current incarnational personality. It's the soul. It's the real you. It's the you that never dies. It's the you that you become after you die. But you're still it even now. You just have this overlay of ego and identity. And so there will be a process, a kind of back and forth between the ego and the opening that has been created by the higher self. And that's a normal thing that will happen. When you see yourself in a past life, you have to understand, and it is normal and it is healthy to doubt it. It's okay. I'm not going to try to convince you of the validity of your past life. I'm not really interested so much in the story, although a lot of the stories are amazing. They're fascinating. A very normal reaction for most people, even me, when you come out, is to feel like you made it all up. But you know what it is to make things up. You know what it is to tell somebody a lie. And you're going to know you didn't do that, even though your logical mind would like to just explain it away with that. But what happens is that then, like I say, you get a kind of chain reaction where it's like your higher self takes a little bit of your identity and your lower self relinquishes a little bit of it. And everything has to kind of come together in a new configuration. And that's exciting. And for people who do this multiple times in their life, it can be really a process of integrating the higher self and identifying more and more as the higher self, tapping into the wisdom, the intuition of the higher self on a regular basis, on a moment-to-moment, everyday basis. So there's nothing that I can do, there's nothing that I've ever seen done that, except for maybe ayahuasca, that has the potential to create so much of a shift in 5 hours. It's truly remarkable what happens in these sessions. And sometimes it's remarkable with big firework displays, and sometimes it's very quiet, and you only notice it later when you notice what has changed. But anyway, those are some of the things that you can expect to encounter if you have a past life regression session with me. If you would like to do that, contact me at andysway@yahoo.com, andysway@yahoo.com, or text me at 212-505-7729. Thanks for watching.